想要什么？要快人一步，用技术驾驭前路。要赢，还要点运气的眷顾。怕输，那就给我让让路，看我一串7的脚步。要好看，指尖的技术，画里有画的艺术。茫茫大众，我要万众瞩目。你还想要什么？100万奖金，自走其爱。这里有你要的全部。
We are live once again from Shanghai, China. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2019 Auto Chess Invitational, the first major of its kind, $1 million prize pool, $450,000 for first place. And we started with thousands of players competing around the world, 32 players from 9 different regions aggregating here in Shanghai. And now we are down to 16 as we cover the semifinals today on twitch.tv/autochess_official. Thanks for being here. I'm Axel Toss, joined by 2 of the best commentators in the world, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're down
some nice praise.
We're down to 2 commentators.
That's true. Yeah.
Just kidding. We'll have the other 2 joining us a little bit later. But we got Cameron Davis and Yoel Larson. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Good. Fantastic. Yeah. It's been a good show. I think that's just going to continue. It's just going to get better, right?
It should be.
I mean, I should hope so.
Yeah. That would make sense.
We did eliminate awful players, and now we only have good players.
Right.
And now we're going to go and eliminate more awful players until we get good players. That's how it works. That's,
Everyone here...
there is a very high bar of excellence on this stage for us right now.
It's amazing to watch all of this unfold for me, truly. It's just, if you made it here, you get $4,000. If you make it to today, you get $8,000. If you make it to tomorrow, I believe it's $18,000 at least for the final 8.
So this is, you can argue, right now the semifinals is a fight for 10K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
But then that still seems small compared to the grand prize tomorrow, which is $450,000. That's
it's a lot of money for first place. And again, I mentioned it yesterday. This is not a team game.
It's all mine.
You're not sharing that.
You're not sharing that. Get away.
That's a rarity in esports these days. There's a lot of team games out there, but it's all down to just you here when you're competing in auto chess. So I've been loving the stories that we've seen unfold. We have a female player who actually made it through to today, made it through the groups yesterday. That was very dramatic.
Yeah.
It almost ended up being a tie in her group.
The most emotional win almost.
And I don't even think she would have, if she got second that round, she would have tied, and I think she would have lost the tiebreaker there.
Right.
She needed that win.
Right.
And it was just the dramatic back and forth there.
Yeah, and we actually have a recap to take a look at, and it will probably feature some footage from that. So let's go ahead and go through that footage here. Yesterday, a very dramatic day. Again, we had 4 groups of 8. The objective yesterday was to get to obviously the top 4 of your flight in order to advance to today. I thought we had a video coming, but it's okay. All right. That was a cool little video. Cameron, I think I saw you in that.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
I was so lucky there at the end. Yeah, I saw you.
There you go. All right, and here are our match results from Group A. This is the first bit of action we were able to see yesterday. Oh, yesterday was a long day, but it was really fun. I think the broadcast was 11.5 hours. But this action unfolded in the first few hours. We had Hosanna from South Korea emerge victorious, which ended up being somewhat of a trend as the day went along. Azu's second, Shredded third, Shake fourth. So the top 4 there are going to be involved in our first semifinal that we're about to cover, and they're going to be joined by the top 4 from this group, Group B. So it's pretty simple: the top 4 from Group A, the top 4 from Group B, B will be competing in our first semifinal today. Top 4 from Group B here, as you can see, 22, 17, 16, 15. All those guys involved. And then later on today, we're going to have the top 4 from Group C play against the top 4 from Group D. Archdevil, Psycho from Germany, Philip, and Lucky. Lucky's the female player from China. Again, barely able to sneak in over Stilo.
Right.
A lot of dramatics in Group C.
Yeah. Had to win their last game.
Definitely go back and watch that if you missed any of yesterday. And then Nudge WK, honestly, and I'd almost ask you guys, one of the most dominating performances that we saw yesterday from the Spaniard.
Yeah. I mean, 2 wins in a row is definitely very good. He does tie that with Hosanna for 2 wins in a row. Hosanna just got better on the non-win, and so that's why Hosanna does have more points from yesterday. But nonetheless, Nudge definitely performing the best of the Western players, who we saw kind of a mixed bag from that. However, we do want to point out 3 of the 4 Koreans in this event did qualify.
Yes.
That's definitely a good ratio from that one specific region.
And you know, they qualified well, you know. Like,
Yeah. and the one player that didn't qualify was
fifth.
failed by like 2 points.
Right. Yeah, he was close thereafter, for sure.
Land?
No, Land got in.
Land qualified, it was Stilo.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Stilo is the one who got hit the
barely-
right gear,
yeah.
ran out from underneath him.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Lucky in the last round.
Stilo barely did not make it through. Well, I mean, on that note, based on how dominant our South Korean players were, at least in the semifinal we're about to see, are you guys like pegging them as favorites almost going into the finals tomorrow?
I think Nudge is going to give them a run for their money.
Yeah.
I think Chuck as well. There was a lot of impressive players also. They were dominating their groups, but I mean, all of the groups weren't exactly equal, I'd say. Some of them maybe a little bit easier, some of them a little bit harder. So they're going to give them a run for their money, but yeah, of course they're super powerful players. We saw that yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that as far as it was good showing for the region, but there were good players from multiple regions, Nudge being one of them, of course the Koreans, and a couple other ones thrown there as well. It's that I don't think it's fair to look at just those 3 Koreans as being the favorites. I mean, as you mentioned, Chuck, he was one of the favorites coming into this event, and actually, surprisingly, one of the only 3 favorites that actually qualified.
Right.
It was what, Tutu, Kiri, and Chuck as like the 3 favorites to win this whole thing. Tutu and Kiri like actually weren't even able to qualify.
Right. Yeah, we saw that even after the first game. We saw people like Monty disowned some of these fan favorites, or even really good players from the qualifiers just got kicked out immediately. And then you kind of understood, like, okay, this is something different, you know?
Yeah.
This is another level, and it just doesn't cut it. Well, then again, there was only 3 games, but you could see some amount of difference, I think.
But even within that, I think most of the commentators came in with certain expectations on how these games would have played out, and we immediately, after the very first game of the day, kind of got proven wrong in some point. Our expectations were not at the level that these players are all at, and that's something that a lot of these players need to learn, because this is the first event of its kind. Even the qualifier process was a different experience than this, had a different level of skill than this right now.
For sure.
And so, absolutely, the best players aren't just the ones who are coming in as the strongest, but the ones who are able to adapt to things being thrown at them that they weren't expecting.
Exactly. And it really, as you were saying, it ties to what has happened with this new metagame, right? All of these players were really strong in their own sense from the qualifiers, but the metagame was a little bit different here. Things goes faster here at this final tournament, like the World Championship, if you will, where these people from Korea especially have been playing a lot more aggressive. They manage their lose streaks are much more efficient. They come online quicker, and that's going to throw people off. Especially if there's been a metagame that's been around for a long time that they're used to, it's going to be a little harder to adapt almost when something completely new happens.
Yeah, and without a doubt, you know, this is the first event of its kind in a relatively new game.
Yeah.
The first time we're seeing these regions, you know, to your point, to actually play against each other, which is, for our purposes, wonderful to watch unfold. So we have some data from yesterday that we're kind of thinking about right now, but it could all change today.
Yeah.
And the great thing is all of the countries are still represented, and we're going to be introducing our first 8 players involved in our first semifinals. This is Yekin from Vietnam.
Yep, qualified second place from Group B. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a pretty close second as well under Jinsu. But Hosanna, he had an amazing, dominant performance in Group A, taking that whole thing by storm. Basically the first winner of this whole event coming from Group A.
Right, he had 2 wins in his group and a fifth place performance, so very impressive.
Then we have Sheikh representing China entering the stage.
Yeah, he didn't qualify as confidently. I think he came in 4th seed from Group A, and it was a really close tiebreaker.
Really a bubble boy.
Him and I believe Monty. He's the one that kicked him out.
Yeah.
And then we have Bomberon from Japan. I believe he had a win, if I'm not mistaken, but he also didn't finish near the top of his group. I think he was 3rd or 4th in his group. Yeah, 3rd overall. So still, you know, he might be competitive, but finished a little bit lower in his quarterfinal group.
Yeah, I mean, these are all like excellent players from this round. It's so hard to differentiate them. I mean, sure, there's been some of these dominant players, but even the guys who were in 2nd and 3rd, they were like all had like some impressive games in their own right.
Exactly.
But there's absolutely value into playing to not win every single round. You just need to be top 4. It doesn't matter how you get into the semifinals as long as you get there. Jinsu, though,
he was fun. He was fun to watch.
Well.
He was fun to watch yesterday.
Yeah.
Those were some entertaining games.
Some Fallen Witcher games from Jinso. That was good to see.
Here we have Azu from China. He had a great day yesterday.
Yeah,
you know,
he was the most consistent player, right? He had like
2 seconds. Yeah, I think it was maybe even 3 seconds.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's like every single time. I mean, it kind of sucks that he wasn't able to get the win, but here's Shredded coming out from Pakistan.
Content invitation, right?
Yes.
Invited from
yes,
content
but
and
I
have
think
proven himself.
He played it very well. He went under the radar.
Yeah.
But that we can talk about that later, though, because here is Chuck, who is definitely, I think, still the favorite despite coming in from the 4th place in Group B.
I think he's the last American represented in the semifinals, I want to say.
Might be. I think guys are falling like leaves.
So any fans in the United States, let us know your support for Chuck in the chat. I'm not sure what time it is. It's probably late.
It's 1 a.m.
You're like the time zone machine, though.
It's 1 a.m. on the East Coast.
This guy is so good at time zone.
I had some help with production,
impressive.
to be honest, but I know a few time zone.
Yeah.
I know a little bit of it. Don't quiz me or anything.
All right.
It's 1 a.m. on the East Coast there.
But guys, we have our 8 players here in this first semifinal. I need some initial thoughts from you. Like, obviously, we had the dominating performances from both Korean players getting first in their group. We already talked about that a little bit, but you mentioned Chuck being the favorite. How do you expect this semifinal to unfold? Also, to note, this is a best of 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we were doing best of 3s.
I think it's important to note that there was 1 extra game in this compared to yesterday, but also the fact that there was a lot, especially in Group A, a lot of sort of like feeling out the meta and feeling out the lobby that we saw yesterday. I don't think it's gonna be as slow of a build-up this time around because of the experience from yesterday. A little more scouting. In fact, every single player here has played with close to half the lobby that they're in right now, and so there's going to be at least a little bit of familiarity there. But it'll be interesting to see how the 2 metas from Group A and Group B
combine.
Yeah, because Group A, the meta there was like Hunter, Beasts, and
it was very quick.
It was the weird,
aggressive.
like, the weird footsie game around Knights. Like, do we go Knights or do we not go Knights? That was a sort of thing that is going to be a hard read for Group A.
Who else
Group
is going
B
Knights?
But Group B was like the really wild out there one where we saw 2, not just 1, 2 Fallen Witcher wins. Wins. Not even like top 3 wins.
No, I think Fallen Witcher definitely has a place in this meta if you really like high roll the Fallen Witcher early, so he can carry you in the mid game and then to the late game also with that advantage. It's kind of similar in that way as a Beast Warrior game, as often your kind of front line is consistent of those Beast Warrior units. And then you have the Fallen Witcher as you kind of damage them, if you will, instead of Hunters or something else.
I think the important thing is that at this level of competition, any weakness or any sort of slowness to your play is going to get punished significantly harder than it would be even at like the top levels of the ranked leaderboard, just because of how good each and every one is, which is why Knights is a nice stable strategy, but lose streaking into Knights isn't an instant win as it would be on regular normal servers. There is a lot more viability in going the sort of like faster mid-game strategies like the Beast Warriors and the Fallen Witchers.
Yeah, you make a good point that people get punished a lot more in this high-level competition because you can force a certain comp that you feel comfortable with and that is strong in this metagame if you're giving enough time. You'll always find your units in the end, and if you know how to perfect that comp, you can get a few wins at a lower level, but if you don't get the right units in time, you're gonna get punished if you're not flexible, and that's really apparent in these higher lobbies.
Another interesting element, I think I was talking with Claytano a bit about this also, in regards to like, okay, you're in a flight of 8, it's effectively a $10,000 match, right? You know, $10,000 more to go to tomorrow.
Yeah.
In regards to like your health, we saw a lot of people, you know, taking lose streaks. Their health was getting a little low, but then they were trapping themselves a little bit. Some players, you know, played brilliantly and were able to sneak out of those low health situations. How would you guys kind of approach that? You know, obviously there's a risk element, taking lose streaks, letting your health drop. Do you expect to see as much of that versus really trying to go for more wins earlier on in these matchups?
You have to recognize, I mean, it's the same story as any sort of level of play. You have to recognize the strength of your army if you want to commit to the win streak or the lose streak. I will say that lose streaking isn't as powerful as it is on regular servers, but it is still arguably better than not streaking either way.
Yep.
The difference is you have to recognize the moment that you want to go in, and I know she's not in this group, but looking at how Lucky played her group and how she handled her lose streaks was an interesting take on it, and I think probably one of the better ways to lose streak, which is what I believe Scoundrel called the modified lose streak, where you do still spend money, but it's all on your bench. And so you at least have a start to your build rather than... You do hit 50 a couple of rounds later because of it, but it is still a better way, and it's actually more successful.
All right, guys, before we get into this real quick, who's your favorite in this flight?
I gotta go for Hosanna.
For me, I would go for either... No, I'm going to go for Jinso.
All right, we're going to find out what happens. I'm going to let you guys take it away, but first we're going to hear from Shredded.
The first thing I learned right off the bat when I was playing my games was the fact that the meta is very aggressive in these tournament matches. You have to be on top of your game right from the get-go. You can't really afford to lose streak too many rounds because you get put in an awkward position with low HP and not that much gold to spend, and your build is lacking a lot of materials. So I really think playing for the early win is very important. I also have learned what type of compositions are the most popular right now. For example, Glacier Knights, Dragon Mages, and Hunters, Beast War even, and those are the comps you want to stick to if you want to try to perform consistently in this tournament.
I was about to joke that he was listening in on us until he mentioned Dragon Mages, because I think we have seen maybe one successful Dragon Mage, which is interesting because, Joel, Dragon Mages are really powerful on like your regular ranked ladder, but it's been awful here.
Yeah, the thing with Dragon Mages is that this metagame has turned out to be a lot more aggressive, and when you're playing for Dragon Mages, you're playing for a later timing, a more late game timing. And if you get pressured early, you have to put in all your money a little bit more quicker. So it's going to take a little bit a while for these players to adapt to play Dragon Mages under this new aggressive metagame. And I think it's going to work, but players just to think of it in a little different way. Maybe not going the full 6 mages or going for an earlier front line, or there's a few ways that you could do it.
Good start for Shredded, though. We know a lot of people like to go for the Goblin mechs in the very beginning because of their early game viability. We saw one player commit to the Goblin gamble in late game once, but that really didn't work out for them, unfortunately.
I think those players were already out of the competition.
it was. I believe it was disowned, and he was already eliminated from the competition, so he was just trying to have a little bit of fun with it. But nonetheless, Shredded did just say in that interview that he likes to play for the win streak, and this is a very, very good way to do so. He already has the level 2 Skybreaker, and so hopefully we'll do it as well. But you can also virtually the same lineup, a lot of Goblins in the early game.
Right. This is basically the best way you can get an early win streak. Goblins are the strongest units in the early game, especially if you get a 2-star. And this is one of the things you can take as a sign that you should be going for win streak, especially if there's another player that has a similarly strong army than you. If you get a few strong units, you can definitely go for leveling up quicker to make sure you keep that win streak.
Seen a couple of 2-star upgrades on your screen. Got Chuck with the 2-star God of War. That's certainly another good early game pickup. That's its own early game power that's separate from Goblin mechs. In fact, God of War, you often seen people stay on that thing because of how strong of a tank it is.
Right. God of War is one of those few units that are great in the early game, but also scales very well. And those are really the testament of the really great S-tier units of this game.
Look at this, though. We are seeing a number of players level up to level 5 on round 5, which is a bit earlier than what is traditionally seen. I think we have, what is that? Let me quick math, 3 people doing so. And that is just because they want to go for the win streak. But Chuck, he leveled up wasn't able to even get the win streak.
Right. This is a testament to how aggressive this metagame is, where you can't really lose too much life if you're not going for the full lose streak. And also, I think I saw a few different players actually high roll quite a bit of upgrades. And since they saw the other players did that, they all did level up. So that's something you can see often, is that when somebody goes for something, the rest of the lobby kind of follows along.
Seeing a couple of Taboo Witchers on the board right now. I don't know if anyone's going to go for the Fallen Witcher games that we saw from yesterday. I think it's mostly because of how strong of just a single unit it is.
Quen, however, does have a Fallen Witcher already and has found a 2-star God of War. And this is an incredibly strong start. They have the 3 goblins and the front line from the God of War 2, which is a great unit on its own. I think we're going to see Quen try to grasp this streak and continue. And the thing with Fallen Witcher is that he's kind of a glass cannon, right?
Yes.
And the reason why he's not as strong sometimes is that he gets nuked down too quickly. However, in the early game, the games tend to, or these small little combats tend to go a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then you can get the full value of the Fallen Witcher. So strong unit only at level 1, just like Dwarf Sniper, for example, in the early game.
Something that I'm noticing, though, is that we're seeing a fair bit of Shadow Devils, which is not something we saw a lot of yesterday.
Yeah, it follows the same reason that it's a strong unit early from its own cost. It has this high attack power. It's kind of a glass cannon, but doesn't really matter as much in the early game, since there's not too many things that can threaten it. It's only if your opponent has a bunch of 2-star Soul Breakers, for example, that it's a little scary to have that Shadow Devil and you're scared of it not actually going off.
I mean, a bunch of 2-stars, anything at this point in the game, I think is fine. We are seeing one player open fort. It's going to be Azu, the Mr. Second place silver medal master himself, going for the open fort. We'll see how long he commits to it, because previous times we've seen players open fort. It's been difference in success. Sometimes they've taken way too much damage. Other times they've actually been able to manage it very, very well. Also, a quick look at the items. A Frantic Mask already for 2 players. One of them already on a Light Blade Knight. And for Hosanna, it's going to be on his Taboo Witcher.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to see that Oz is going for this open fort with Feathered, because we've actually just not seen it succeed once. This is one of the reasons why we saw Land yesterday actually didn't clinch like a first or a second place. This is the only time he went for I think he went with Feathered lose streak, and he's just lost. I think this strategy is proven to be bad, and we'll see if Asus sticks with it.
Yeah, you're right. Land did have a lot of money, a lot of investment into the Feathered synergy, and it didn't work. It literally worked not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, at this level, it's just punished too hard, right? It's Feathered. The idea behind Feathered is that it's good against Glacier Knights and other physical comps like Beast Warrior, for example, that are starting to get a little bit more popular. The problem is that the players at this level for the late game, they actually find ways to stay until the late game, and then at that point, Feathered kind of falls off a little bit. So it's only really better against those comps in the mid to late mid game.
Yeah. If we can see the streaks so far to see how anyone's successful on their lose streak and the win streaking, Yaken actually just lost. He was in the process of a win streak, but Shake is in a good 4-round win streak. Azu sticking to his 5, Hosanna on the 3, and then everyone else in the middle, being in the middle, they're kind of not streaking either way. We'll see if that affects them positively or negatively as we go on. I think Shredded, that we're looking at right now, just lost his streak. He was in the process of a win streak. His board looks pretty strong. He hasn't really decided on a comp yet, though. He's got a couple of pieces for Glacial Knights. He's got a couple of pieces for God Mages. Even has a couple of pieces for Beast Warrior. I think he's just waiting, and he has the time to do so. I think he is just waiting to like what he's given, what direction the game kind of leans him towards.
Right. This is something we typically often see when you have a Goblin start, is that Goblin starts are the most powerful ones in the early game. But the thing with the Goblins is that you kind of have to switch them all out when you transition, in comparison to like a Warrior start, for example. A Warrior start, you can transition into having a Hunter backline, you can have a Dragon Mage backline, you can even have a Fallen Witcher backline or a Hunter backline, if you will. But all of those Goblins have to be sold at some point, which means you have to fill your bench a lot more. And it also means you have to be a little bit more versatile in terms of the units you pick up, because you can really go in any direction, since everyone has to be sold anyways.
So we're heading into the creep round right now, the round 10 neutral round. A good number of 2-stars on a lot of Goblin units we've seen right now.
Two-star 2-cost units for Jinsu.
That's true,
also.
Ripper and the Water Spirit.
It's an incredibly strong start here for Jinsu. He also has the Spirit synergy, which is very strong early.
I don't know if I agree with him getting the Ripper to 2-star unless he wants to really commit. If he got it early, I could understand, but if that was a recent pickup, I don't know if I would have agreed with that just because, as you said, Goblins, you're going to fall out of them at some point. And on a 1-cost unit, you get the full return on your investment there to get them to a 2-star. But when you spend 6 gold to essentially to level up a 2-cost to a 2-star, you only get 4 in return. So
you're right.
You may think it's only 2 gold, but it is still something to be aware of in managing your economy.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a gamble, if you will. Not the Goblin gamble, but it's a gamble in the way that you need to streak for a longer time for a upgraded 2-cost unit to be worth it if you're gonna sell it later. And the other way you could do with this start is it is actually playable in one other comp. And that is the God Mage comp. Then a Ripper with another Goblin, usually Devastator in the end, is viable. But that's a comp that usually is something you don't go for anymore, especially since the new mage build is filled by humans and also 6 mages.
Yeah, I think we saw one God Mage composition yesterday.
Right.
I don't exactly remember its success rate. It wasn't awful, but I don't think it was amazing. Jinsu, though, he was able to find the early Dragonite, as you can see, and immediately threw in the full Dragon synergy with the backup of the Goblin Mechs and just the lone Water Spirit, because
It's such a good transition for him, because as soon as you find the triple Dragon, you can right away put him in, because you get such a big power spike. And not only do you get to put him in, but you get to sell some other units more quickly, which means you actually retain gold as soon as you get that.
Looking at Ozzy right now, he wasn't full open forwarding. He had a couple of units just to try and remove a little bit of points of damage from his opposition while still keeping his lose streak. He's at 50 gold right now on round 12, which is a good timing. But it's the fact that he's going into Feathered. That's the thing that's continuing to concern me.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of level 2 unit Druids there, which are good early game units because of how easy they are to level up. We'll see his success rate here, though, because I think he might be wanting to try and break his streak now that he's at 50. He's got a little bit of damage going off. The heal from the Centaur, though, wasn't enough, and just 2 level 1 Wind Rangers, it's not going to do a lot. I think he removed 1 unit from Hosanna.
Yeah, I just, like you were saying, Feathered, not that strong, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. If there's a way Feathered could ever work, is, if you don't high roll it, of course, is that... Whisperwood Sage.
Yeah.
Is super crucial to your army. If you get that to 3-star pretty early, that's a way you can kind of climb back a little bit earlier in the mid game. But even then, it's not that amazing. So I'm a little scared for Asu here for sure.
Looking at Chuck right now. Currently sitting in 5th place on the leaderboard, 84 HP. Still a fair amount. There's a gap between him and everyone below him in terms of health, so he's he's in a good, healthy spot despite not being able to streak either direction. Sitting on 30 gold, it's not the worst right now, and he's doing a Beast Warrior composition.
I was just about to say, what is he doing? It's a little bit of everything.
It's a beast. A couple you're in it's a transitional period right now, so even though he does have a random Agrisis Ranger and a random Fallen Witcher,
but he can also go
there because they're 2-stars.
Hunter backline, right?
Yes.
Possible. So he's a little bit of everything, seeing what it's going to go for sure. I would actually be interesting to pick up the gold gain graph here to have a look at about what the kind of economy looked like for our players. Also is on the top there with his loser, and this is super nice for him, right? Because sometimes you see people actually just 100% streaking for a long time, and that's really an issue for the loose streakers because their big edge is to be loose streaking to get more economy, sacrifice your health for money. And the other thing is that if you have a 100% streaker, those are going to pressure the loose streakers a lot more, because if they go low in percentage, they're not going to beat the win streaker until very late. And if they play against him a couple of times, they could just be out. So,
well, what I think we're going to be seeing across, we already saw it, even just looking at yesterday to today, people are realizing that loose streaking is not as powerful. And so there was a lot of loose streaking in the very beginning of yesterday, which meant that the win streakers were able to get away with it heavily. We're not seeing it be as successful. Ken, who's at the top right now, lost at least 1 round, and he is actually close to the bottom of the gold. While Azu, who's open forwarding, is at the very top, 15 gold ahead of the next player. And
Jekwan has spent a lot of gold into his army so far, but I think it's okay because he has found a 2-star Troll Elder, and that is
big.
insanely early. Round 14, that's as early I've ever seen one, honestly.
Huge.
So that is actually going to transfer so well into the late game. Like, he's already transitioned so well from Goblins, even though his economy is a little bit bad. I think he's gonna be fine because he's in one of the best late game comps already.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the important things. One of the risks of going for in the composition, like I guess 6 mages, is that in a way it does rely on one particular unit, which is Tortola Elder. We saw a player yesterday, I forget who it was, but we did see it happen, where was not able to find the Tortola Elder at all, which meant that even though they had all the other mages to make the composition work, there was no damage. And the fact that he was able to find not just one before round 15, but 3 of them to level them up into a 2-star is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
And he would be a fool to not go at least some sort of mage composition, having that in his back pocket.
Yeah, finds a lot of items here, and I would want to see if he did pick up a Magicka Crystal for
He put something on it. He put something on the Tortola Elder.
Yeah, I think he put something on there. Let's have a look at this Tortola Elders to see what he's working with there. And if he does indeed have a mana item on that Tortola Elder, that would be amazing, actually, for his kind of continuation in this game.
Because he doesn't have a source right now.
Yeah,
so the mana generation isn't going to be super duper strong. But hey.
And also I would want to see the global items, if we can get the graph of all the items being gained so far in the entire game.
Just rearranging his units
seems
right
like
now.
we can't get it up right now, yeah.
Don't worry, we'll find it at some point. Arranging his units right now back away from the Wolf round, trying to put the tanks at the front. Level 2 God of War is definitely a good pickup, even though the synergy doesn't work in a Dragon Mage comp, which seems to be that he was leaning forward, but so is Jinsu.
Yeah, Jinsu is looking real nice here. He's definitely has still those dragons and those good 2-star 2-cost units in Water Spirit and Ripper, which are gonna fall off a little bit as we go on, but it's gonna take a few rounds before that happens, until round maybe 23, 24. That's when they start to fall off. So, but I'm sure Jinsu has enough time here to transition.
Yeah, I mean, his health is pretty good. He's sitting on 75, 46 gold on round 16. It's a pretty good pickup for this moment. And everyone's economy is getting to a strong point. Azu, though, I'm seeing right now, the loose streaking player is actually down to 38 after that round, but he ended the round with 30. It seemed that he rolled down, and yes, I'm glad we can see his board now because he is finally going into play. Yeah. He's trying to get his units up, and it's like a feathered hunter druid sort of combination.
Yeah, seems like that way. He does want to get the beast bonus for his backline of the physical damage hunters, and especially that Razor Claw. That Razor Claw can actually help him transition to the late game pretty well. It's one of the strongest units. Oh wow! I'm actually a little surprised he goes for Unicorn 3. Maybe he thinks he needs the extra power level to stay alive. But Unicorn 3 is definitely a unit you don't want to see after round 20 even.
No, but I mean, if you can get it now, it's not the worst form of investment.
Yeah, it costs a little bit of gold.
A little bit, but I think...
Actually more than any other unit, since you can sell them for value.
Yeah.
If you combine him, if you know what I mean.
I believe that by selling the level 3 Unicorn, he'll be getting... Yeah, maybe only losing out on 2 gold, and having that as just even the heal to keep your backline DPS alive for just a little bit longer to win. That's even bigger though, the 3-star Whispers here.
And that is nice, yeah. I wonder when it's gonna switch out for that. Probably the Taboo Witcher, I'm thinking. He still wants to keep the 3 elusive, and he does want to keep the 3 hunters, I'm sure.
Does he?
Oh, he eggs the Warpwood
So
stage.
we don't often see the full 4 Druid being utilized because it is a little bit of an investment. There are costs from 1 all the way to 4, and you don't necessarily want to keep the Unicorn while you're finding the Razorback. But this player is doing it. Azu's doing it right now. We'll see how strong it is. He's actually getting torn to shreds, though. Bomberon's having a good run at things here. The heal from Unicorn isn't enough, but we'll see if the Panda slaps going to be enough to turn it back into his favor. The Panda cannot 1v3, though, especially even in his
Water Spirit
final hit. Got turned to stone by the Water Spirit, so Bomberon here is going to come out on top.
Azu's APM there was a little slow. He was trying to figure out which units he wanted to get in, and as he was trying to move in more feathered units, he realized that, oh wait, I only have 5 feathered units, and then he tried to move his hunters back, but weren't able to put all 3 of them back. And here we have the items, and we can see if G-Quinn indeed... He does have a Magica Crystal there on his Control Adler, as well as a Wooden Stick, so that unit should definitely get his mana just fine. So that's good for him. Chuck has high-rolled Pulse Staff, and yeah, looking good.
Yeah, the items is pretty even across the board. No one was terrible, but there are, of course, differences in full power level. And actually, let's see Azu fight again, this time up against... Actually, Bomberon, once again, it's just on Bomberon's board this time around. And I think we are seeing more Hunters on the side of Azu, especially with the Bunny Archer. That's going to be... That's an easy... flex in for him because it's both a feathered and a hunter, so it looks to be that even just that one single unit is going to put it into his favor up against the Dragon Mage of Bomberon.
The nice thing with the druids in the mid game is that you can get them to 3-star pretty early, and if you get them to 3-star, they have enough health to survive the initial burst of a lot of the mage builds. So this is really the time they peak. And especially after a lose streak, they're going to be especially strong. We'll see how it transfers into the late game, however.
Yeah, that's the question, though. How long do you stick onto those druids? Because the balance is that it is easier to get them to 3-star, but that means that when they go up against any other 3-star of the same tier, the other 3-stars are generally stronger. And so you're going to have to phase them out at some point, or at least have a different unit in your composition.
Or like a higher level, for
Become
example.
a main carry, or become like the main tank, whichever druid unit we are, in fact, talking about.
Right, we can see Chuck here playing the Hunter build with that 2-star Siren. Pretty good unit. It does have that Soul Reaper also, so definitely having the Aggressist bonus is a nice addition to have. Let's see, I think he's going to try to look for a Venomancer next to complete his Warlock build, as well as reducing his opponent's armor even more at this point. Does find a Doom in the meantime, but I'm sure he's going to switch it out for a Venomancer as soon as he finds one. Rogue Guard.
Rogue Guard, not even just the Doom. Why don't
Tsunami Stalker as well, wow.
Both of those could actually be really good because, of course, he is going for a Warrior Hunter build. And it's a pretty good composition right now. He is level 8 on round 21, actually. I think... Okay, so we have Shake, who is the lone player, who is below 8. But 8 on 21 is, of course, the standard, the default. It is when the late game begins.
Yeah, we can see one of the issues that Shredder was going to have is facing out those goblins. Still does have a Heavenly Bomber in the end, and this is not... Level 21 is not the place for... Heavenly Bomber to still be around, if you know what I mean. So a little weak here.
You even just saw the strength of the CC coming out from Chuck's units. He had the Siren stun into the Ghost Ship Pirate Captain stun. And Shredded, he not only lost on Chuck's board, he lost on his own board. Still above 50 HP, still has 50 gold, so he still has opportunities to figure out what he needs to do with this composition. But right now, is it mage comp? It's a 3-mage comp, but there's really no main... Okay, he found the God of Thunder. That's a good pickup for him.
He's going to rotate into 6 mages here. I think that's his plan. He's going to sell the Doom Arbiter and possibly the Swordsman
Probably
also.
the Swordsman.
If he doesn't want to keep it until maybe level 9 to face that in, because Swordsman does actually deal a lot of magic damage. But if he does, again, find Swordsman... Or, sorry, Storm Shaman before that, it's going to be better than Swordman. So I think we're going to see him sell Swordman here pretty soon to get another extra insurance point. But however, I think the reason why he's still keeping it is still a little scared if this was actually better than his previous setup, because he does run a lot of 1-stars now.
Yeah.
But now that he sees that he won this comfortably, he might sell his Swordman.
We'll see. As long as it's not affecting his gold, which kind of is. He's at 45. He might want to sell him and hit 50. But again, 45 to 50 is not the worst. If he goes below 40, that's a different story. But at least for the moment, it's worth it to kind of keep it on the bench just in case you want to find a way to transition in. I think, though, getting the source up to 2-star at this point, just sell the Warriors. You don't necessarily need them at this point. Even though the strength of a 3-star swordsman is very good, it's not going to be the easiest slot in for this composition.
No, and especially as the game goes on, crowd control and silence becomes a lot more important. And then Storm Shaman is so good with that extra 100% magic piercing. So yeah, the thing is that Shredded basically paid 1 gold to be flexible and keep the swordsman in his like bench,
sideboard.
On his bench.
And I think that's worth it. He's still going good right now. This
Look at the damage.
This isn't the only example of this. I think looking at Azu just a couple of moments prior, as well as this, you can see just how changing one unit can completely change the strength of your composition. Look at Azu, though. He's keeping the 3-star druids in, though, but it's still not working
does
for
play
him.
against Hosanna, who's running the Hunters, which is a natural enemy of the feathered units.
True.
We talk a lot about Hunters having that flat-out extra increased damage, but the Alliance actually makes them pierce evasion also, so it's a real problem for the feathered units.
And he's got the 3-star Fallen Witcher, or sorry, Taboo Witcher.
Right.
But I still think this composition lacks real DPS. He's got the 2-star Wind Ranger
Assassin here to 2-star to get a real increase, but even at that point, I don't think it's going to be
Don't you usually want to include a Shadow Crawler into this composition for the DPS?
You can if you go for the Assassin build, but otherwise that would be even at level 10 or something where you include a Shadow Crawler.
It's just I'm struggling to think of any real. I'm struggling to think of any.
I was thinking of a Pistol Crawler. Sorry.
Yeah.
Shadow Crawler definitely can be included, but you really take what you can get.
Obviously, but it's just I think that's one of the many reasons why Feathered is not very favored because it's. Oh, I was about to say it seems to have lacking DPS, but he just beat Shredded, who we were just looking at as having a dominant composition. Hosanna right now, though, he's in a bit of trouble of his own, going for a Warrior Hunter composition and currently sitting on 10 HP, 2 gold. He's one Tusk champion away from hitting that 3-star. He is one Agursis Ranger away from making that 3-star. But other than that, though, I mean, what opportunities does this player even have on upgrading his composition?
Siren 2 is going to be the most important upgrade by far. Siren is, we talked a little bit about this beforehand the tournament, but Siren, I believe, is the unit that gets the biggest increase from level 1 to 2. First off, it has a lot easier finding the mana it needs for its ultimate. The ultimate becomes a lot stronger, and also it has enough health to actually survive until it can finish channeling it. So that would be a big increase, but as you said, after that, it's gonna take a while before Hosanna could get a real big impact in upgrades.
What are your thoughts on the current positioning, though? Because you often see a lot of times, especially when you hit the late game, that a lot of players just kind of go for the corner pocket. This player's not doing that. Is that, do you think, a bad thing? Do you think that the corner pocket is like by far the really only successful way to position your units?
I think it comes down to if the compositions you're playing against. If you play against assassins, for example, that's a good reason to pocket in. But it's more about forcing units not to move. Like Dragon Knight, for example, you want it not to move so it can transform instead of moving. And same with Tortola Elder, you don't want it to move and attack because then it doesn't get a better range of its ultimate. But Hunters, you can definitely move Hunters, it doesn't matter as much.
Ooh.
And especially if you're playing against a lot of AoE.
Speaking of Tortola Elder, that was actually a huge move by the Water Spirit. One of the reasons why Water Spirit is one of my favorite actual tank units is because once it's taken a little bit of damage, it actually distracts everyone, goes into the back line, and it forced Tortola Elder to hit him and miss the rest of the army, which could have been the saving grace for that composition. But looking back on Chuck, he wins on his own board against Azu.
Yeah, being the feathered player, so natural good situation for him.
What I'd like to see, though, is that there is not a single player who's dominating this game right now. Chuck is at the top right now with 58 HP. On round 27 yesterday, we've seen a lot of players stick above 80, if not at 100, this late into the game, and that just goes to show the strength of the lobby right now.
Yeah, it's definitely down to the wire here. A really close lobby. We can really see that from the bottom 3 even, to like 3 to 5, there's a lot very close in terms of health.
A lot of mage players right now, a lot of dragon mages specifically.
Which is the reason why we think that the hunter players spread out his units.
Yeah, we didn't see a lot of that because there weren't a lot of strong dragon mage players yesterday. But today it actually somehow seems to be working. I don't know what changed from yesterday. Maybe there were secret patch notes that allowed it to happen. But nonetheless, they're working strong. But Chuck's composition is strong as well.
We also see him playing as Shake, which is the only really Glacier Knights player I've seen. Is there additional Glacier Knights player? Let's have a look at the tab again and see what our players are playing. Okay, so Hosanna does go out. We have, I only see one Knight player. So let's have a look at Shake and see what he's working with. Only being level 7, however, so maybe not making the best of his opportunity to be the only Knight player here in this lobby.
Is he going for the Knight gamble that I think Claytano called it yesterday?
Yeah,
where
but then you should level anyways pretty fast.
It's a little late for that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's round 28 and he's still only level 7. That's something that you see a lot of times when it's Assassin player where it really does rely on those 3 stars.
Right.
But what is he even waiting on right now? Granted, he does have the 4 Glacial, the 4 Knights. There's not a single unit that's gonna like upgrade this a significant portion, but on round 28, any extra added benefit you can have is gonna be helpful.
No, for sure. Yeah, you can definitely stay on level 5 for some extra time to get those level 2s, but then you also need to sacrifice time from rolling at a different level from that. So you need to be at a certain level at the same time as everyone else, even though you stay at 5 for a little longer. So that's a big issue. The second issue is that even if it goes up to 8, we can actually see a lot of players using that Soul Reaper in their Hunter build, so it's going to be hard for him to actually find it.
That's
when
true.
He's looking for
but
it.
it is strange though. He's the only Knight player, and he's still waiting on a couple of upgrades, which I guess is just it's either mismanagement of economy or bad luck. Either way, we're seeing a lot of players right now with very, very low HP. I believe it's, 6 to be exact, sitting below 20, and that's on the brink of being taken out. We could see up to 3 or 4 players eliminated in this very round, and at that point, you're going to miss out or gain a couple of points by a matter of seconds. Shredder right now, though, he's had a bad run of things in the previous couple of rounds, but that's a huge ultimate from the Tortella Elder.
I actually love the way Shredder's played this. He kept his swordsman, which I gave him a little bit of a bad beat for earlier. But this is so smart in this lobby filled with mage players.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
It does get magic immunity and can cleave through a board of, a lot of mage units. However, you usually go with God of War because it's so good against Glacial Knights, because all those units is going to attack that
But
unit.
only one player is going Glacial Knights.
Exactly. So Swordman 3 looks a lot better than God of War this game.
So Shake right now was able to get to level 8 and actually throwing in the Venomancer as the Warlock synergy. So unable to find, it seems, the Soul Reaper,
Like
which is the default, but sold the second Venomancer, so doesn't seem to want to commit too heavily.
Right.
Or just maybe wants to hit level 10, understands that Venomancer is not going to be what wins him the game, and just has fingers crossed. We did miss Jinsu going out though, but Shake might be the next player out after this round. This is round 30. This is a neutral round.
Right, yeah, there's already tons of Soul Reapers on the board, which is the unit he's really looking for. Also, it has really nice items. Probably a reason why he's still here in the game doing pretty well. Shake did find a nice upgrade there in that mask. Alright, we actually have a harder Jurask for G-Quen. That is big. Let's have a look at G-Quen and see what he put it on. It's going to be very interesting to see. He does have a God of War to put it on.
Oh, that's big. Yeah, that's going to be a huge tank unit, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, God of War is considered the best tank unit in the game, and then when you put a Heart of Trask on that, you're not killing it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And that could be huge. Just that little bit of extra delay on getting the threats to the back line of it could be huge. Like the Propeller, the Dragon Knight.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also interesting that he's playing the Priest here, maybe thinking that, oh, I'm not going to win this lobby, but it's so close.
I say that. The God of War does stay alive very long, but everyone else got eliminated.
Shredded goes out.
Shredded does go down as well to
This
Chuck.
is smart. You play this Priest to take less damage because the lobby is so close in the bottom. You see that there's going to be a lot of players going out soon. So if you can just save yourself like 1 or 2 position, it's going to be so much points, especially when you get to the bubble, right? The difference between 4th and 5th position is huge.
Yeah, definitely a smart play there. And I think you could argue he's actually saved himself from being eliminated this round because of it. Math may not add up, but that's not my job. I'm not a walking calculator, I'm a commentator. Chuck right now was able to find a 3-star Agursis Ranger and then 2 2-star Doom Arbiters on his way to a 3-star. And we have seen how powerful that 3-star unit can be.
Yeah, it's looking really strong here, for sure. He has potential. He has a really high power level already. He's kind of hit a peak, but has that, as you said, Doom Arbiter on his way. He's also very smartly keeping a few Abyssal Crawlers on his bench, so it's fine if he finds a Tsunami Stalker. He can actually go into 4 Marine for the late game, especially if he gets to play against a bunch of these Dragon Mage players.
You know what we're seeing, though? Azu, the player, going feathered, lose streaking from the beginning, is still in this game and is currently in 2nd place, where he is, of course, has the most experience. He does lose against Bomber, and this could be a fair bit of damage, dropping him down to 5 HP.
Right.
But Yaken does go down, not able to survive any longer. 5th place, though, not the worst. In a best of 4, there is still room for him to qualify for the grand finals. but we're looking at the top 4 right now. Chuck with a very, very big lead on the top, but followed up by Bomber and Shake and Azu, all vying for the 9-point victory in the very first round of the day.
Yeah, for sure. This is the longest that any player has taken feathered so far, and he did get some really nice upgrades on his druids in the mid game, and it's gonna actually transfer that into a fairly good position. So good on Aussie to kind of be here in the top 4, which is really the goal, if you will. If you get top 4 in every game, you're gonna go to the grand finals.
Yeah, one would hope that the math adds up that way. The Bomberins, Dragon Mage comps coming out. A big stun by Siren, but it may not be enough in time. Just look at all the damage coming out. The level 3 Aggressive Ranger isn't going to be enough, nor is the Wind Ranger on the side of Chuck.
Right.
It's going to be 3 units surviving. Okay, on Azu's board, though, the Feather Druids may have found their match yet again. The player does go out. I believe it's Azu. There's just a little bit of delay on that. He's going to be taking the damage.
Out here against the Glacier Knight player. And Shake actually goes out a second afterwards. Going to be very happy about getting that extra point. And we talked about this before, that Feathered is usually an alliance, usually bad, but it's usually an alliance that's good against Glacier Knights. But only in the mid
Glacial
game.
Knights, yeah.
Only in the mid game. And in the late game, it actually beats it. So there we go.
We only even saw one player go Glacial Knights, and it wasn't even a very strong, I guess, showing of Glacial Knights. Nonetheless, looking at the top 2 right now, Chuck versus Bomber, and Chuck with a nice health lead. Everyone's rolled down to basically no gold, and I don't know, the 3-star Water Spirit, I'm looking at that on the side of Bomber right now, but looking at the damage coming out from Chuck's composition, as well as the stuns.
This Water Spirit basically won him the round on let's see, Chuck's side of the board. Bomberan did actually win that. It's gonna deal a fair amount of damage to him. The reason why is that first off, it took a bit of damage. Then it went through the entire group of units and dealt damage to all of them with its nuke. Kill off the Wind Ranger, managed to take a ghost ship, but didn't even get hit.
Dodges the ghost ship.
Dodges again, deals damage to everyone again. So real MVP here.
Yeah. Bomberin, though, still going to be changing up his positioning because of the neutral round, though. Going to be separating his units to avoid the splash damage from the Black Dragon. And this is, I mean, I've been wrong before. And I'm not even going to say that this is going to be the case, but it is likely that this is going to be the last item that these players are able to find. So let's see what they can find, see if they can't utilize it into something big to give them that upper hand into the final few rounds, the 1v1 fight.
Yeah, let's have a look at the items here now that we have received the item from the Black Dragon King. See if we can get the items up here in a second. I think the Water Spirit also had a fair amount of items because it did stay alive for a long time. Here we go. So Storm Shaman picked up a nice item there in the Disarm item, and then we have a Rune Axe, I believe, from Chuck. Chuck does find a 2-star Doom Arbiter.
That's a third 2-star.
I believe so, so I think...
The question he needs to make, though, is does he want to combine that into a 3-star, or does he want to leave it as 2 separate 2-stars? Because once you make a 3-star, that's an open unit slot, and he may not have anything powerful enough to warrant... Exactly, he may not have anything powerful enough to warrant bringing it in.
Yeah, so we can see him having 2-2-star here so far, but it's going to be so nice as soon as he finds that one unit to upgrade, is that when you get 3 stars against mages, it means that they survive the burst. And that's what's important, right? So he can continue attacking afterwards. Deals 10 damage to Chuck here with his Dragon Mages from Bomb Round. So we're going to see this game go along a little bit more with, of course, because Chuck has such a good health lead already.
Wait. I think we must have confused Chuck with a different player because that's only 2 2-star Doom Arbiters. Either that or he sold the level 1s that he had previously.
Also. Wow.
Maybe, I don't know. Either way, something happened. He only does have 2 stars. There's no opportunity just yet for him to get the 3-star Doom. We'll see if that hurts him because he did lose 2 rounds in a row to Bomber, and once again, the second place player seems to be coming up in the advantage. A little bit of positioning change for both of these players going into this round.
Yeah, look at this Water Spirit. He went all through the back, took a bunch of damage. Actually took the entire power shot from that Wind Ranger. So he's gonna tank a lot of damage and mislead a lot of the damage. Is it gonna be enough? No, Chuck is actually gonna hold this round on his side of the board. So does Bomberan on his side, so no damage being dealt.
So it's a little bit of a trade right now, no one losing damage. Bomberan still has yet to lose his own side. Chuck, though, the positioning change did allow him to last I guess he lasted at all, able to survive on his side. But another adjustment coming out from Bomber, and it's all about figuring out where he wants to place that Water Spirit, where he wants the aggression, where he wants to kind of like take the aggression from. Because I mean, the biggest risk of playing a mage comp, which Bomber is doing, is that if you don't guard those mages, they're going to die in an instant. And so, with the few tank units that you have in any sort of mage composition, it is crucial that you place them efficiently.
Yeah, for sure. The most important thing for the mage units is that they don't want to move in the beginning. And it seems like he was able to have his Dragon Knight stay put as well as the Total Elder. Let's see if we... No. Okay, so Siren's ultimate did get it off there, but Total Elder does get a full channel. So nice for Bomber here on him attacking Chuck, right?
This is going to be a lot of damage.
Yeah, for sure.
Fair amount, 9 damage to be exact. Still in first place health-wise, but at this point, it's going big. But if you look at the scoreboard, Bomber also lost to Chuck. So he dropped down to 10 HP. Even if it goes mostly in Bomberin's favor, if there is a couple more rounds that do somehow favor Chuck on Bomberin's board, the lack of health compared to Chuck's could mean that he still goes out in second place.
And you know what we saw just now?
What?
Bomberin has used his time from winning a few rounds and feeling a little bit safe, saving up some money, and actually went to level 10. So we see a pirate captain being added. So that's going to be a big difference in power level for the next round.
That could be good. The silence might be something, but I think more importantly, it's just going to be the Ghost Ship, even though it is level 1. A lot of stuns coming out. That's a huge stun on the side of Chuck on his own board, and the Ghost Ship comes in on both boards as well from both sides, but that's going to be a lot of damage towards Chuck
that's gonna be
on both sides, and I think that's it. That's going to be Bomberin taking the lead, winning game 1.
Yeah, big... I love that he had almost, I should say, audacity to save money there until the end to claim that victory. Very well played from Bomberin.
Yeah, and it just shows the strength. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Is this one of those things, one of those caster curses as they're usually called, where the minute we say something, it's wrong? Like we came in yesterday saying, oh, Dragon Mage, that's super powerful. It was awful yesterday. We come in today saying, Dragon Mage, it's an awful composition, apparently, and then it wins the very first round.
Good questions. Another thing to add on to that, I think you said Hosanna all the way when I asked you.
I did.
15, 20 minutes ago.
And you just stabbed him in the back. Went for it.
Well, it's kind of fascinating because Hosanna got last.
Yeah.
And he was #1 in his group from the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, guess who got 7th? Jinsu, the other South Korean player, who also was the #1 seed from his quarterfinal. Where's the rhyme and reason, guys?
To be fair, if I'm
Cast a curse is the only thing that matters.
To be fair,
it overrides everything.
If I'm not mistaken, both of those players did have their worst placement on the first round of both of their groups. So maybe they're just slow starters, right? It was Hosanna had 5th into 2 first.
It's fair. It's
and
fair.
then Jinsu had
but I mean, it's certainly not what they wanted, obviously.
No. Clearly.
Clearly.
Especially based on how well they did overall yesterday.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Interesting
it's
stuff.
hard to argue with.
Interesting stuff here. Now, we do have 4 rounds to work with, so there's, in theory, some room to bring it back. But another very interesting thing, obviously, Chuck, the success that Chuck was finding there.
Yeah.
I might be hearing some echoes of USA in our Twitch chat. For those of you who are up, I think it's around 1 a.m. or so USA time. I know USA time zones over 3 hours.
We got 4 of them. It's a lot.
It's getting late in the United States, but this is the time where you want to stay up and root on Chuck, because he's the only representative from the United States still in this tournament. But he was at the top, obviously, most of that game. And I want to ask you guys, like, what was the main? Because it seemed like he had a pretty fair advantage throughout the entire flight. What really happened there, where he gave up his first place advantage?
I think this is a good, almost. I would say this is a good example of what we talked about, having those warrior hunters in the beginning to mid-game and then getting that early advantage. And especially since there were so many other mage players in the lobby, he could still keep that advantage just until into the late game. So he had the advantage until mid to late mid-game, and then when it was the final 2, he got defeated in the end.
I think one of the other issues is that it may not be one of the largest reasons why Chuck wasn't able to keep this win.
Close the deal.
Yeah, but when you are looking at a game that is about mid-game speed and mid, like taking the reins at the very middle of the game, is that it does kind of rely on getting your units to 3-star to maintain that strength. While like mages, you can stay at 2-star and win the game, as we just saw.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Chuck wasn't able to get too many 3-star units. It was only the Agrisis Ranger. And so when that's your biggest source of damage, it's not the best.
It's kind of, you know, the rolls just didn't work out as well as they could have.
Yeah.
For Chuck.
Yeah, and also,
kind of the game went along.
like Chuck did have a lead, but he only got that lead until the very end, really. He wasn't that 100%er streaker, really, so...
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you really get the bang to get those 3 stars.
And there we see the breakdown of the points. Shredded is from Pakistan there, so just keep that in mind. But South Korea there at the bottom, 7th and 8th. Obviously, we got 4 rounds to work with. Bomberon from Japan, he's at the top. Chuck in 2nd. Again, the lone American participating here. So pretty dramatic game 1. What are your kind of brief expectations going into the next game, especially for our leaders and especially for those at the bottom?
It's weird. I think we obviously saw a lot of people contest the Dragon Mages, which is something that we didn't really expect, and I'm assuming that a lot of the players didn't expect because 4 is quite a lot. It's hard to be successful when you're contested that much, despite the fact that our winner did use Dragon Mages, but everyone else didn't do that well. I'm interested to see if we see more people try and go Glacial Knights. I'm also interested to see if we see more of the mid-game aggressive compositions like Warrior.
Right. Yeah, I think
Beast.
we're going to see more Beast Warriors in the coming game and also Glacial Knights. Just like you said, I think that if I'm thinking about this game very logically and that you get your option to choose from what you saw in the first game, you want to be able to punish all these mage players and the Lucy player, or sorry, the feathered player also with the Beast Warrior. And Beast Warrior is really the best comp to do that. Not only is it very powerful early, but it also summons additional units, so it deals more damage to each opponent that keep losing to it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is that this is the most aggressive we've seen as far as streaks. No one was able to really have a strong win or a losing streak. And when that happens, you kind of got to think, well, I need to go one of those super aggressive mid-game builds in order to stay healthy enough to even transition to something into the late game.
All right, guys. One match down out of 4 here in our semifinals. Again, trying to find out who are going to be the top 4 from this group to advance to our finals tomorrow. $1 million prize pool here at the 2019 Auto Chess Invitational. We're live from Shanghai. We're going to take a short break and hear from Shredded, and we'll be right back.
I've always been a fan of mobile games, and this game came out. I was really interested by it. And this genre was already becoming very popular with the Dota Auto Chess mod, and this was a perfect time to try out a new style of game, and it really captivated me. I definitely think there is an RNG factor in the game, but I think a good player knows how to handle every single hand of cards that he's dealt. And if a player knows how to handle every situation he's facing, it doesn't matter what type of RNG he experiences because he knows how best to cope with it to maximize his chances of winning. I have a kind of strategy going into this that maybe people won't expect. I do like my chances, but I do know at the end of the day, like I said, there are a lot of very, very talented players. It is going to be difficult to even make it past the initial round of 32, but I'm hopeful, and let's see what can happen.